about Pythagorean theorem, which you already knew about, but we were revisiting it and then simplifying our answers. But this section down here, I didn't get to that day, and it's trying to figure out what kind of a triangle it is just by knowing the lengths of the sides. Is it a right triangle? Is it obtuse? Is it acute? And so these are the formulas. If you square your A, square your B, square your C, and they equal, the two sides equal, it's right. If when you square everything and your hypotenuse squared ends up being bigger than the other two sides squared and added up, it's obtuse. And if your hypotenuse squared ends up being smaller than the other two sides added and squared together, then that's when it's acute. So let's just look. First, you got to know which one's the C. Which one would be the C? 50. The 50 would be the C. The C is always the longest side. So whatever the longest side is, that's your C. So I'm going to compare A squared plus B squared, so 30 squared plus 40 squared, and I want to compare that to my C squared, my 50 squared, and I want to see what happens. Can somebody in their calculator put 30 squared plus 40 squared and tell me what you get for that? So 30 squared plus 40 squared? What did you say, hon? 2,500. And then what do you get if you take 50 and square it? 2,500. So since when I calculated this, I got my A squared plus B squared to equal my C squared, then that means that this is a right triangle. So if your A squared plus your B squared equals your C squared, it's a right triangle, which that most of you probably could have figured out on your own. Which one's the C in the next situation?
40.
The 40 is your C again. Okay, so I want to take A squared plus B squared. So I'm going to take 20 squared plus 30 squared, and I'm going to compare that to the 40 squared. I'm just going to put a question mark here because I don't know how they compare. Okay, so in the calculator, we're going to take 20 squared plus 30 squared and see what we get. And that gives us 1,300. And then I want to square my 40 squared and see what that gives me. And that gives me 1,600. Do you know what kind of triangle this is? Obtuse. The 1,600 is the bigger number, right? So if the C squared, if the hypotenuse squared ends up being the biggest, then that's when it's obtuse. So that's what this is saying right here. If the hypotenuse squared is bigger than the other two sides squared and added up, that's when it's obtuse. Okay, let's look at the next one. Which one's the C in the next set? The 9's the C. So I want to compare the 6 squared plus 8 squared, and I want to compare that to the 9 squared. So what do you get if you add 6 squared plus 8 squared? 100. And what do you get if you take 9 and square it? 81. And what kind of triangle would you say this is? Acute. This time, the 100 is the biggest number. So when the C squared, the hypotenuse squared, is smaller than the other two sides squared and added together, then that's when you have an acute triangle. So hopefully this is pretty easy. Does this seem super easy to you? Okay, I just want to do the next one because it has the square roots in it. Okay, so I have to know which one's the biggest number. Do you know which one's the biggest number?
12.
The square root of 12 is the biggest number, so that's going to be our C. So I'm going to compare 2 squared plus square root of 8 squared, and I'm going to compare that to the square root of 12 squared. Let's talk about this for a second. I know you could just shove it in your calculator, but what's square root of 8 times square root of 8? Just an 8. It's square root of 64, but square root of 64 is just an 8. Remember, if you square the square root twice, you just get what you started with. And then how much is 2 squared? 4. And then what's square root of 12 times square root of 12? 12. So what would you tell me here? It equals 12 equals 12, so it is a right triangle. So if A squared plus B squared equals your C squared, it's right. So if the C squared is the biggest one, it's obtuse, and if the C squared is the smallest one, it's acute, which is kind of common sense a little bit. If the longest side squared is the smallest, it'd be acute, and if the smallest side squared is the biggest, then that's when it's obtuse. Okay, I want you to try 3 of these on your own for a second. Okay, so on page 11, and some of you might have already done this, because I know when I went to check this assignment, some of you had accidentally done some of the top section, and you didn't have to. So I want you to try number 1, number 4, and number 7 for a second. This is page 11 in the packet. Real quick, try number 1, number 4, and number 7, and we're trying to figure out if the triangles are acute, right, or obtuse. acute, right, or obtuse. And remember, C is the longest side. Jake, did you erase my triangles that were on that middle section?
Mm-hmm. Chief's lost this one.
I know. God dang, I just drew those this morning so people could use them.
Sorry.
It's all right. Thanks. I know. You can have this one. I don't need it.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
What do we do?
147. You got him? Are we ready now? Okay, what'd you get for the first one? Obtuse. So the C is the 21 because that's the longest side. And so you take your A squared plus B squared and compare it to the C squared. And since the C squared was the biggest, then that's when it's obtuse. What'd you get for the next one? Acute. So this time the 15 was the C because that was the longest side. So you compare the 12 squared plus 11 squared to the 15 squared. And this time your C squared is the smallest. So that's why it's acute. And then what about the number 7? That one's obtuse. This time the 31 is the C because that's the longest side. And you compare the 23 squared plus 12 squared to the 31 squared. And you do get your C squared to be the biggest. So it's obtuse. Everybody's good at being able to pick out which one's the C and then knowing how to do it from there? Okay, you do have 2 questions like this on your quiz, but on the board behind my screen, I'll lift up the screen here in a second, I give those formulas that were on the previous page that said if A squared plus B squared equals C squared, it's right, and if A squared plus B squared is less than C squared, it's acute. So I've got those on the board for you. Feel okay with that? Okay, so I have one more thing I want to teach you today. So we are going... Where are you? Gotta find you. Okay. We're jumping a little bit. We are going... Okay, to page 37. Okay, on page 37... And initially, I was going to teach this whole lesson tomorrow, but I have several people that are still going to be out tomorrow. I know my cheerleaders are still gone tomorrow. What? Yeah, Dakota will be gone. I'm not worried about him, though. And then, who's gone tomorrow? Theater's gone tomorrow? Oh, wow. Okay, so theater's gone tomorrow. I'm going to lose a lot of my 6th and 7th periods tomorrow because of the basketball game with the Australia players. So I have decided not to teach my big lesson tomorrow. I'll tell you more what I'm going to do tomorrow. Tomorrow's going to be kind of a work day. I am giving, like, my classes something to work on, but it's nothing that you haven't been taught before. So I'll show you what it is here in a little bit in case any of you are gone. And then if I have some people who still have a test to make up for me or a quiz to make up for me, they could make that up tomorrow in class. So tomorrow's just going to kind of be a work day. I'm not going to teach anything because of all the people being gone. So I want to get started on this lesson, and then Wednesday, I guess, will be the day that we finish it. But I'm just going to do something real minute, real quick. I'm not even going to talk about what this means as of right now, but I want to talk about the words opposite, hypotenuse, and adjacent. Okay, so in this picture here, do you know which side is the hypotenuse? Okay, C is the this little c is a hypotenuse because it's across from the right angle. So whatever's across from the right angle, that's always your hypotenuse. Now, adjacent means next to, and opposite means all the way across from, but it depends on where you are. So I don't want you to write this down, but if I'm at angle A, then the little a would be opposite because it's all the way across, and the B would be adjacent because it's right next to it. But if I was at angle B, the little b would be the opposite because it's all the way across, and the A would be adjacent because it's right next to it. So it depends on where you're at as to what's opposite and what's adjacent. So let's just say if I'm at angle A, then the little a is all the way across from it, so that would be the opposite side, and the little b is right next to it, so that would be adjacent. And we'll need this for when we do our Wednesday lesson. Plus, I'm giving you a tiny assignment today from this today, but it's so easy you can do it in 2 minutes. Okay, let's look at this picture. Which one is the hypotenuse in this picture? Okay, the little c is the hypotenuse again because it's across from the right angle. And the hypotenuse is always the hypotenuse depending on, it doesn't depend on what angle you're at. So just to talk about adjacent and opposite for a second. If I was at angle B, the little b would be which one? Opposite or adjacent? It would be opposite, and the A would be adjacent. But if I was up here at angle A, the A would be opposite because it's all the way across, and the B would be adjacent. So in this one, let's just say we're at angle B. What'd you tell me the little b is? Opposite. And what'd you tell me the little a is? Adjacent. Okay, so let's flip to page 39. Well, yes and no. Like in this assignment, this is going to be your assignment. It shows you which angle they want you to use by the little curve. And then when I teach Wednesday's lesson, there will be something in the problem that tells us which angle to use. So this is going to be your assignment that you can do in like two minutes, probably less than 2 minutes once you're done with your quiz. So first of all I want to do is label O for opposite, A for adjacent, or H for hypotenuse. That's all I'm doing. So the hypotenuse is always across from the right angle. So this would be the hypotenuse. And then this little curve means this is the angle they want you to go to. So if this is the angle they want me to go to, what would you call this side? Opposite. So I'm just going to write O, and what would you call this side? Adjacent. Okay, so let's look at 7. So first I'm going to label the hypotenuse. So the hypotenuse is across from the right angle, so that would be this side. So I'm going to give it an H. And then here's my little curve. So this is the angle they want you to go to. So what would you call this side? A, adjacent, because it's right next to it. And then this one would be O because it's opposite. It's across from the angle. You understand how to do this? Okay, so this is the assignment that I want you to do when you're done with your little quiz. So now I'm going to give you your little quiz, and then whenever you're done with that, you can finish this, and then you're done for the day. Oh, I do want to show you what we're doing tomorrow for the people who are going to be gone. So tomorrow, I know I'm kind of all over the place in this packet. Tomorrow, I'm going to have you guys that are here work on this page. This is page 35 in the packet, and this is just over the 30, 60, 90, 45, 45, 90 triangles. So everybody in here should know how to do it if you've been in class since, last Wednesday or whatever. So anyway, tomorrow I'm just going to have this be a work day. People that are in class will work on this page, and I can answer questions, or if you have a quiz or a test to make up, you can make up that quiz or that test, and then if you happen to be gone tomorrow, you won't miss out on any instruction. You'll just have this assignment to do. So this is tomorrow's assignment, but I also want to make sure that you guys do the opposite, adjacent, and hypotenuse one for me. Okay, so let's do our quiz, and then you can finish that other little page up if